My check. 1, 2, my check. Start. Okay. From the top. Good evening, my name is Kristen Berg. I'd like to welcome you to this candidates forum on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Camden County and the Cherry Hill Zone PTA. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization focused on voter outreach and education. We welcome women and men and students as young as 16. Members contribute by moderating candidate forums like this one tonight, maintaining the vote411.org voter information service for our region, and registering voters at community events, colleges, and citizen naturalization ceremonies, among other activities. You can visit lwvccnj.org for information about the League of Camden County. The League is strictly nonpartisan, which means we will never support or oppose individual candidates or parties for any elect office. Furthermore, League policy is that the moderator must not be eligible to vote in the election being moderated, thereby having no personal interest in the outcome. I live in Mount Laurel in Burlington County, and our timekeeper, Justin Hamilton, lives in Paddington. Moving on to tonight's forum and the format. In this election, we have 7 candidates running for Cherry Hill Board of Education. 3 of the candidates are incumbents, and they identify themselves as such in the course of their remarks. Of the remaining 4, individually, and 2 are running under the same slogan. We have 6 of the candidates joining us this evening. 1 candidate is unable to attend and has prepared an opening statement, which I will read. The forum will begin with opening statements, then followed by question and answers, then ending with closing statements. Responses to questions are 1 minute in length. The timekeeper will give a 15-second warning to the candidates by holding up the yellow card, indicating that it's time to wrap up. The timekeeper will signal that time is up by showing a red card, and you must end your statement at that time. For both opening and closing statements, which will be 2 minutes in length, candidates will get a 30-second warning instead of 15 seconds. I will remind all candidates to conduct themselves professionally, which is relevant to the nonpartisan office, Board of Education, not to include in their remarks other matters unrelated to that office. Personal video or audio taping of this forum is not permitted. The candidates have been assured that there will be no unauthorized taping. Please respect that assurance. The recording of this forum will be shared online after the forum, and the recording may only be posted and shared in its entirety. Let's begin with the opening statements. The candidates will speak in an order which was drawn before. Yes. Yep, we'll just take 1 moment. All right, so the candidates will speak in an order which was drawn before the start of the forum. Again, each candidate has 2 minutes. They will receive a 30-second warning with the yellow card, 30-second warning before your time is up. Again, please heed our timekeeper's signals. First, for opening remarks, will be Nicholas J. Gaudio Jr. Nick, you may begin.
Good evening. Thank you to the Cherry Hill Zone PTA and the League of Women Voters for hosting and administering this year's candidates forum. And thank you to all Cherry Hill residents for giving me the opportunity to represent all of you. My name is Nick Gaudio, and I've been a resident of Cherry Hill for the majority of my life, from Kingston through Carusi and West. And having moved back to town as an adult 12 years ago, so that my children could also have the same excellent academic and social experience that I did throughout my childhood. Prior to 2020, my family's experience with the school system had been only positive. I began to take issue with the BOE when it started to publicly demonstrate its willingness to politicize our schools and push its agenda on our children. Parents were told we were incapable of making decisions for our children and teaching our children morals based on our own belief systems. The BOE treated parents at BOE meetings as adversaries before they even had the opportunity to voice their concerns. Public comment periods were decreased in an effort to silence frustrated parents. Our BOE needs to be reconstructed with members who will responsibly challenge every decision made instead of blindly playing along by automatically voting aye just to feel like they were part of the winning team. While I have noticed a slight shift in this direction with last year's newly elected board members, we need to continue this positive transformation. We need to raise questions and analyze the positive and potentially negative effects of every decision before casting votes. We also need to respect the rights of parents to oversee their children's education and incorporate their family values and encourage the residents of Cherry Hill to participate in major decisions in curriculum, budget, health education in an inclusive manner without discrimination. Cherry Hill's excellent public school reputation was not built with participation trophies and silent clubs. The children in our district need to experience their peers, families, and teachers cheering loudly for their accomplishments. We need to encourage all students to overachieve, not to continue to burn down our system with non-academic and politically motivated re-education.
Thank you, Nick. Next is Miriam Stern. Miriam.
Thank you. Good evening. So, my name is Miriam Stern. I moved to Cherry Hill 13 years ago for the reason that many of you all did, which is for the schools. I am married to a teacher. I have 3 children. One is in college, who is neurodiverse and went through our entire school district special ed system. And I have 2 students who are in our high school. All of my 3 kids have gone through Cherry Hill schools through their entire education. I am a clinical social worker and I have been in the field for 28 years. I've owned a counseling practice in Cherry Hill and been proud to be part of that for 20 years as well. I served on the board of Jewish Family and Children's Services currently, and I've previously served on the board of the National Association of Social Workers. I've been an involved parent during my time that my children were in the school, advocating for teaching Chinese in our high schools, advocating for fair funding and for alternative funding. I testified at the Assembly Budget Committee hearings regarding fair funding. I met with the Commissioner of Education, all part of with other parents advocating for our students, our schools. I was elected to the Board of Education in 2021. I became the Business and Facilities Chair of that committee. I became the Vice President in 2022 of the board, and I'm currently serving as the President of the Board of Education. I believe in stakeholder engagement. It's critically important. Our community came together to support the bond because we had significant stakeholder engagement. I was so proud to be part of that effort. We helped get full-day preschool expansion in our district this year, and we are hoping to get full funding for universal preschool in Cherry Hill Public Schools. We are waiting for word from the state whether or not we can move in that direction. I was on the subcommittee that helped to choose our current acting superintendent, Dr. Kwame Morton. And in my time on the board, I've collaborated with my fellow board members. We have a fantastic school district. We have so much to look forward to, and I hope to be able to serve for another 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Next is Anita Corinne Elmore Stratton. Corinne.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to Zone PTA for having this event this evening. As already heard, my name is Anita Corinne Elmore Stratton. I prefer Corinne and am known in the community as such. And I've been a member of Cherry Hill community since 1989. I'm a product of Cherry Hill schools, having graduated from Cherry Hill West. And I'm proud to have just recently had a son graduate from Cherry Hill East, who joins a long line of uncles and my father that have done so as well. As a current incumbent, I am the HR Committee Chair. I'm also serving on the Camden County Educational Services Commission on behalf of Cherry Hill. And as a current candidate, I am running an effort to move forward with vision, leadership, and progress. In my professional life, I have spent over 20 years in youth development, including working in this school district in various roles, going from paraprofessional to substitute to site leader, and then ultimately moving on to my career outside of school time. With that, as I mentioned, vision, leadership, and progress are the 3 things that I believe will continue to build our school district. For vision, we currently have a 5-year plan on what our schools will look like physically, and we are happy to continue as board members to ensure that we are fiscally responsible with that vision. In addition, as a board member, I'm committed to not only providing strong leadership when necessary, but also supporting our HR team as we continue to move forward and ensure the best leaders are hired, welcomed, and most importantly, retained to work with our young leaders. All three of these will cause us to bring to progress and move the needle in a positive direction that will set up our students for success beyond graduation. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Next is John M. Brangan. Jack, go ahead.
My name is Jack Reagan. Our family has lived in Cherry Hill since 1983. I was a high school and middle school teacher for 13 years in Camden and Citizens School District. I've worked in IT for Cigna Corporation and IBM, and I'm currently retired. I put the 3 children through the Cherry Hill schools: Bret Hart, Rosa, Beck, and East. When our children were in the Cherry Hill schools, the district truly was a bright light on the landscape of education in New Jersey, and in some cases, the entire country. This is no longer the case today. My candidacy for the school board has one purpose. That is to sound the alarm to the residents of Cherry Hill that the Cherry Hill school system is a house on fire. The district has lost its focus on academics that it had back in the 80s and 90s. There's no debate about this. Performance results from the New Jersey Department of Education show this to be true. I hope to be able to review some of these numbers, my answers, this evening. Leading that is from the Department of Education is that Cherry Hill East, for the first time, dropped below minimum standards in the state of New Jersey for mathematics. I think it's the first time ever. Additionally, the school system has become obsessed with racial activism, social activism, climate activism, queer activism, any other type of activism. None of these things belong in a public school. Finally, I've reviewed the sex ed curriculum that starts with our 5-year-olds in kindergarten. Every red flag as a parent and grandparent went up with that curriculum. For our at-risk and most vulnerable students, this curriculum is a roadmap to a level of gender confusion that these students otherwise would never have. This must be changed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Up next is Kimberly Gallagher. Kim?
Hi, good evening, and thank you for providing us the platform tonight. My name is Kimberly Gallagher, and I moved to Cherry Hill in November of 2015. I grew up in Ambler, Pennsylvania, and moved to New Jersey after marrying. My husband and I chose Cherry Hill specifically for the school district. I currently have 2 daughters who attend Horace Mann Elementary, and I have a stepson who attends Eastern Regional High School. I received my Bachelor's of Arts in Philosophy and Ethics from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and my Master's in Business Administration from Northeastern University, where I concentrated in supply chain management. I have worked both in the corporate and educational settings, and with my background, I can help look critically at the Cherry Hill Public Schools academics and operations and think of better strategies to create better efficiencies within the system to benefit all students. I was elected to serve a 1-year term on the Board of Education in November 2022. Over the last 9 months, I have proven that I'm focused on understanding a topic fully and asking questions when I need clarification on the subject. I have championed the need for greater transparency regarding the bond project. As a member of the BNF committee, we understand that managing the projects and the taxpayers' money is of the utmost importance. I look forward to advocating for the community for another 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And our 6th candidate is Renee Sherping.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here to engage with the community and speak about my intentions for running for the Cherry Hill Board of Education. My name is Renee Sherping. I'm a lifelong resident of Cherry Hill. I'm a true West Sider. I grew up on the West Side. I attended Payne, Carusi, and Cherry Hill West, where I met my husband. We have 3 daughters in the school system here in Cherry Hill, 2 daughters in the school system here in Cherry Hill, one in Kingston, one in Malberg, and another one eagerly waiting to be like her big sisters. I have extensive background in leadership and education. I'm a nurse. I'm also a millennial, so if you need to know anything else about me, you can look at my LinkedIn or anywhere online. My experiences and environment I grew up in this town have given me an appreciation for many cultures and lifestyles. Because of that, I have dedicated my life to working with people and ensuring that everybody has a voice that is heard. That appreciation for diversity and speaking up is what originally interested me in running for BOE last year. Seeing and hearing the debate and conversation among the community is what about what is happening in our schools interested me in becoming more involved. Once I gained a better perspective, I decided to step up and run for Board of Education. After being a close runner-up in last year's election, I took a back seat while continuing to pay attention. After a few months of watching this board work, I decided to run for Board of Education again. Although many of my interests from last year still apply, realistically, this is not about me. This year's motives for running came more from a process improvement perspective. To me, a board member should be able to represent the general population of this community. A board member should be open and willing to debate and discuss publicly with the intention of including the thoughts and concerns of all stakeholders. A board member should demonstrate the behaviors we are expecting out of our students in the community by not bullying, silencing, confusing, or purposely hiding information from the public. So that is why I'm here. I am committed to bringing innovative ideas, which will hopefully aid the district in district-wide improvement.
Thank you, Renee. That's the conclusion of your time.
Thank you.
And I will now read the statement from candidate Jennifer Sharman, who was unable to be present tonight, and for anyone joining on Zoom, who will have a sign that you may or may not be able to read. Although I'm unable to attend tonight, please know that I'm very invested in making our schools a place for all students to learn and receive an exceptional education so they can be successful adults. I'm invested in all families to be respected, empowered, and included, as well as for our teachers to have the support they need to teach our children in a collaborative way with all parents and caregivers. I'm seeking to run for school board to have a more balanced exchange of ideas, to help empower all families to have a voice, to truly embrace and be inclusive to everyone's different family type, to keep politics and government overreach out of our schools, and to place a greater focus on our academics, which are extremely poor right now. I'm a strong believer in personal liberties and freedoms. I do not support our schools trying to create activists out of our children, having them keep secrets from their parents, changing their names of gender without consent from the parents, bullying our students into choosing pronouns, and evading the family's moral right and obligation to raise their child how they see fit with regards to their own moral and religious beliefs. I propose that we have less emphasis on SEL, DEI, gender identity, CRT, and sexualization of our kids, and more emphasis on academics. Successful academics will allow students to have higher self-esteem and self-confidence and lower levels of depression and anxiety. Voting for me means I will work to reverse the academic regression that has taken place under the recent boards of education in Cherry Hill. A vote for me will ensure that I will strive to be inclusive and empower all family values and diverse cultures with the goal to unite us rather than let our differences divide us. Our families are the strength of our district. We need to end the overreach of our schools and empower parents' voices and freedom to fight for their children. I believe that parents have the right to be partners in their children's education. Okay, we will now move into the question portion of tonight's forum. The questions for the forum were collected in advance from the public, and over 40 questions were received. Questions have been reviewed to ensure they are nonpartisan and relevant to the responsibilities of the office for which these candidates are running. Similar questions have been combined, and some questions have been reworded to neutral or simplified phrasing to allow each candidate to give an open response. Due to the length of this forum, we do not have time to use all questions submitted. The candidates have not seen the questions in advance. Time may not be banked nor given to another candidate. Candidates may also decline any question if they wish. The question order has been randomized. Each candidate is in each position an equal number of times, and the candidates do not know the order of the responses. Remember that responses are limited to 1 minute, and the yellow card will be shown when you have 15 seconds left. So please try to keep eyes up at the timekeeper occasionally so you know you have 15 seconds left. The yellow card is your cue to wrap up, and you will be asked to stop when the red card is shown. You may finish the sentence that you're in the middle of when the red card is shown, and then I will ask you to conclude. Our first question will go first to Renee, and then it will rotate through first. According to the New Jersey School Boards Association, the school board has a dual role: to represent the concerns of the citizens, taxpayers, and parents of the community to school administrators, and to represent the needs of the students and the school district to the citizens, taxpayers, and parents. The school board does not operate the district on a day-to-day basis. That's the job of the superintendent, who is the district's chief executive. Rather, the school board sets the policies, goals, and objectives for the district, and it holds the superintendent responsible for achieving those goals. If elected, what would you identify as your top goal or goals for the district? Please limit it to no more than 3 topics.
So I think, excuse me, I think first and foremost, the obvious answer to that would be the search for superintendent. I think that's going to be our biggest issue in front of us coming up this year. Additionally, continuing with the topic of expansion of preschool, I'm now boots on the ground in depth in this with my daughter, and I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done if this is something we're going to continue forward on. And then the last thing I think is bringing cohesiveness with the board itself and making sure, as you said, our top priorities are working with each other to get our objectives completed and working with the administration to make sure that they're doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next answering this question will be Kim. And if any candidate needs me to repeat the question during this process, just say so before you begin.
Right. So I'd say my two largest priorities, obviously, I think most of us will say the new superintendent. You know, because whoever that person is going to be the figurehead to guide us in the direction that we want to go in. And I think that, you know, that should be a better focus on academic success and a person who is looking to reduce the divide within the community and focus on open communication and transparency. Another large role, priority I would say for myself is expanding special education programs, specifically autism support classes, bringing them along the west side. Kersey is the one middle school that doesn't have an autism support class. And I think, I don't think it would be helpful for the families on the west side to have a middle school that their students could keep the consistency and stay with their friends while there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Miriam.
Thank you. So the number one job of a school board member is to ensure the success of our students around achievement. So it is always the top goal of mine and top focus of mine to ensure we have student success. And I'm really excited that we now have included that and very clear benchmarks in our goals towards that end. That was something that we did this year. Very excited about that. We also have a responsibility to have sound fiscal oversight, and we are currently doing that, and we want to continue to do that with the bond construction projects, as well as other monies that are budgeted in our operating budget, continue to ensure that our physical infrastructure and our buildings and facilities are healthy and safe, and continue towards ADA accessibility. We have work to do for our special education students and their families. I'm one of them. I know what that's about. And we've been meeting with those families. We've included them in our district goals for that reason. We are focusing now on climate and culture to improve a positive learning environment, and of course, our superintendent search.
Next is Corinne.
Thank you. I love that your question acknowledged NJSBA in the role of a board member, as that's very important to note that we are not in charge of the day-to-day operations. However, our role is to ensure that the policies and procedures are in place in order for our students to be successful. And most importantly, to also reach three of my top goals, which is number one, welcoming and retaining more teachers and staff. Right now, we have a crisis amongst the hiring around the nation. And in order to do anything in our district, we are going to have to find a way to get the best quality staff here to work with our young people. And my second goal, I think, would be ensuring that resources are available while also being fiscally responsible. That includes continuing monitoring our budget and making sure that I'm asking the correct questions at the right time. And then the third thing that would be a goal would be for us to continue or to foster a collaborative culture between all of our stakeholders.
Thank you, Corinne. Next is Nick.
Thank you. My top three priorities, number one, absolutely superintendent search. We need to find and hire a superintendent who's fair, unbiased, transparent, and number one, focused on academics. Second priority would definitely be to concentrate on restoring academic excellence throughout the district, all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. And the final priority would be to research and brainstorm to resolve the disparity between the east side and the west side. That's a big one, and it's often overlooked, I believe.
Thank you. And Jack?
Yeah, these are all wonderful things, although and I don't disagree with anything here, but my number one priority has to do with the sex ed curriculum that's in the school district. I do separate in my own mind the LGBTQ students with the curriculum. This is a new curriculum for our 5-year-olds. We're introducing gender identity, gender role, all the parts of the body, urethra, nipples, clitoris, penis, testicles. This is right from the New Jersey Department of Education. You might feel like a boy even if you have the parts that some people say are the parts of a girl. In 5th grade, explain what puberty blocker medications are. Watch the video, Puberty and Transgender Youth. Explain the difference between cisgender and transgender. Use gender neutral names. Refer to a person as a person with a vulva, not a girl or a woman. I think this is the number one priority attack on the youngest and most vulnerable children in our district. It has to stop Monday morning.
Thank you. So given those goals that each of you stated, my next question is, what do you see as the biggest barrier or barriers to achieving that, your top goal or goals? And what would you do to address those barriers? First is Miriam.
So student achievement is a top goal, and part of what we have done over the past time I've been on the board is to look at how we can support that budgetarily and make sure that we are doing so for all the students who need it. We have some students that have more opportunity gaps than others, and that's critically important that we address those with our funding, which is what we do. We have, in my time on the board, I'm grateful to say that we have gotten increased funding with that. We've brought in more math coaches, teacher colleague coaches, a new science and math curriculum supervisor. Those are some of the things that we've added, and including adding that, as I said earlier, to our goals. We also have regular meetings for oversight of our construction for the bond work, and we have hired an outside firm to ensure that we have a successful national-wide search for our best superintendent candidate.
Thank you. Next is Nick.
The main barrier, I think, to achieving the goals is a long-standing tradition of the Board of Ed members maintaining their inferior policies due to their fear of admitting failure from those policies that they had passed during the tenure. And again, that's why fresh faces on the Board of Ed will help alleviate some of those barriers and help us move forward into the next decade and beyond.
Thank you. Next, Corinne.
Yes, I believe the biggest barriers to my goals, the first one for retaining teachers and bringing in more teachers and staff in general to our district. I think the first thing we will have to do is look at our salary guide and ensure that we are competitive and desirable to those that are coming to work to our district and maintaining their work in our district. Something that we've done recently on the HR committee to ensure this is pushing for the change in health insurance that has helped many of our newest staff be able to access health care a lot sooner. And for ensuring that resources are available and being fiscally responsible, I think the tough decision is going to be whether or not to go to the 2% as we go down working on the budget, or if we would like to go over. And being that we are compassionate to the residents and knowing that no one wants higher taxes, however, we have to ensure that we're providing the staff with what they need. And then for fostering a culture of collaboration, I think the biggest barrier there is going to be the community divisiveness that we see on social media.
Thank you, Corinne. Next is Jack.
Yeah, I think one of the main goals that I would have, in addition to the ones that I just mentioned here, is the academic downward trend of the school system. I think the biggest barrier that the board has is a lack of will. This information has been available for years, actually, and there seems to be a bit of a ho-hum attitude about some of these scores, in particular on the west side. West has been below the minimum standards in math and English for years. There's never been a concerted effort that I'm aware of beyond just math tutors and things of this nature. I really think, in particular because of the school closings, that we have to do something extraordinary. I have suggested earlier intervention in the elementary schools. This is on my website, but I think this is the solution to correct this problem before the kids get into back and lose.
Thank you, Jen. Next is Kim.
I think our biggest barrier prior to now was our previous superintendent's lack of willingness to acknowledge the limitations and the knowledge gaps and the COVID slips that we had during that time. So hopefully finding a new leader who is focused on improving academics and test scores and doing that for all students. I think secondly, resource management is a barrier. Previously, unilateral decisions were made, so every school received the same amount of resources. I think in order to really prop up our schools and provide them what they need is that each school needs an individual response. And so I think and I hope that our new administration will take a closer look and provide the specific resources that each school needs to create a more successful environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, given the goals that you stated as the answer to the first question, what do you see as the biggest barrier or barriers to achieving that goal? And what would you do to address those barriers?
Okay, so I'm going to specifically talk about the full day preschool because I figure most people will not be speaking about that. So to me, the biggest barrier, even though we technically have a full day preschool program as of right now, is continuing that full day preschool to expand to reach the needs of the entire district, not just 100 people in the district. Finding the budget to do such a program. We're not sure at this moment if we're going to receive funding from the state. Managing the busing issues that have already occurred, which right now our way to alleviate that was to end school early so that the buses could be coming home on time, but there is no explanation to how to get them to school on time. Addressing the most vulnerable population, which is our special needs kids that are in that school, and how they're going to be affected by this. Adding preschool programs that are up to a district that's already struggling, not pretending that something is good because it's there, but also focusing on improving that program. And making sure that we're including experts into continuing to expand this program.
Thank you, Renee. For our next question, Kim will be going first. What is your view on education or initiatives in Cherry Hill schools that are for or about the LGBTQ+ population? Should the district be doing more, the same, or less?
There was a similar question last year. And I think I want to take it in a way where I think what we need to do for all students who feel marginalized or are in a marginalized community is create a culture where all students and families feel supported and safe. I don't think, I feel as if, and I remember saying this last year, that when I sat in on a discussion regarding the new African American Studies course, many teachers and students discussed not feeling safe in schools. And I think that's a cultural problem. I think that there is maybe a lack of support within schools that make children and teachers feel unsafe. And so I don't want anyone to feel unsafe at school. I think we need to create a culture of safety. And that starts at the top. And so it's really important that we choose a superintendent who's going to provide that culture and pass that down, because it has to come from the top. And so I think we just need to find someone who is willing to, make everybody part of the team and pass that down.
Thank you, Kim. Corinne?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What is your view on education or initiatives in Cherry Hill schools that are for or about the LGBTQ+ population? Should the district be doing more, the same, or less?
So as someone that is part of a marginalized community, I believe that we should continue to expose children to the various types of communities that we have in not only Cherry Hill, but throughout our country, especially as we are preparing them to go out and to be into the world. It does not mean that any of our teachers or staff are forcing this onto our young people, as it is said on social media. It's simply just the way it was when we liked to, but to bring, allow African Americans to be in schools. There was a time where we were taught that that was not okay. There was a time that it wasn't okay for women to read. There was a time for lots of things where we weren't exposing people to them early, and then acknowledging those differences and valuing those differences so that, as my other incumbent says, everybody feels safe. So I believe that we should continue with what we have so far.
Thank you, Corinne. Next is Jack.
Yes, I worry about the LGBTQ students. Mainly because they many times are victims of bullying. And we all know that can have terrible consequences. I think it's important, though, that we understand that we separate the needs and the safety of the students versus when we teach information in the curriculum. I do have an issue with introducing this to 5-year-olds. I would be more comfortable later in middle school and maybe even into high school. But I'm very worried about that, that there is safety around these kids, and they deserve the same opportunities and safety of any child in the district.
Thank you. Next is Renee.
So just like last year, I do remember the question that was similar to this. I wish that I had the opportunity to have a discussion with whoever posed this question, because to me, I have a hard time understanding why any student would be struggling with any topic or any part of their life that they shouldn't have to worry about when they come to school. From my understanding of these types of issues, like a few people have stated already, this seems to be more of a culture problem or a bullying issue within schools. And to me, I have a zero tolerance policy for anything of the such, whether it's about LGBTQ issues or any of the other groups that somebody can place themselves in. So to answer the question specifically, I think that all students should be supported. They should never come to school feeling like they need to advocate for themselves in a way that any other student would not have to. Every student should feel comfortable, and if we're going to separate out instruction for one group of people, I hope we would be doing that for all types of students.
Thank you. And next is Miriam.
So LGBTQI students have higher rates of suicide around the country. It's really critically important that they know that school is a safe place. Home may or may not be a safe place for them to express who they are. Our district is a diverse district. We have students and families from all over town, from all kinds of backgrounds. Our staff are a diverse staff. Our administration are a diverse administration. Our board is a diverse board. We have members of this community, the LGBT community, at every area of our district. We need to focus on inclusivity and safety for our students and our staff. Staff wellness is also part of our focus with our goals. If our staff feel well, they'll be able to help our students. And if our students feel safe and they're in a healthy environment, they will be ready to learn. We have curriculum mandates that are tied to our funding that we must adhere to, whether it's English, math, or our sex ed curriculum.
Thank you. And Nick.
I do a lot of volunteering and chaperoning my kids' schools, as most of us do. And I've met and spent a lot of time with student members of the LGBTQ plus community. I don't have any negative opinions of any of them or any children in our district. And similarly, I've also met and spent a lot of time with many students who are not members of the LGBTQ plus community. And I also don't have any negative opinions of them either. I don't believe we should be discriminating for or against anybody. Our district should treat all students fairly, should protect the physical and emotional well-being of all the students, regardless of sexual orientation or any other demographic differentiators. Thank you.
Thank you. Since a couple of you touched on safety and mental health, I'm going to switch or change order here to ask another question. It's related. What role, if any, does the district have in supporting students' mental health? If you believe the district has a role in supporting mental health, how do you see that tying into school safety? First on this question will be Nick.
Mind repeating the second half of it?
Absolutely. I'll repeat the entire question just so you can hear it once again. What role, if any, does the district have in supporting students' mental health? If you believe the district has a role in supporting mental health, how do you see that tying into school safety?
So I think the district's role in supporting mental health is multifaceted. There's observation by teachers and administrators if they see that a kid is suffering in some way or another, showing signs of concern, or if they are informed from other students or parents about a kid who is suffering in some way. I think the district has the obligation for the guidance counselors in the school to speak with those students privately and confidentially, and from there make a determination whether the child is at any risk of physical or more emotional damage, whether it's something at home or something happening at school. And to answer the latter half of the question, the school safety issue, if there's a concern whether that student is safe at school, I think that needs to be dealt with on the local level of that school by the administration.
Thank you. Next is Jack.
Yeah, I think the mental health is very important. Let me just for a moment apply that to the LGBT students again. I think someone mentioned that this is a group that has a very high suicide rate. The numbers show that a lot of these kids grow out of this phase, will come into it in puberty or out of it somewhere in the mid-20s, early 30s. I think it's important that when a student decides to change their gender, change their sex, that usually there is something more going on with this student. And I think this is where mental health comes in, where we need to be able to provide support to make sure, that that there is nothing drastic going on with the student.
Thank you. Next is Renee.
So I think that our schools have a huge role and necessity to provide mental health guidance for students. I think that guidance should be geared towards helping students cope with whatever they're dealing with, at the same time guiding students on how to communicate with their parents and include them at home. Children spend most of the time more time in school than they do at home, so I think that it's a huge platform for the schools and the professionals within the school to help our children. If there's a documented or legal need to keep that from parents, that's a separate situation. I know we're currently implementing new programs to be able to identify at-risk students. Hopefully, we'll be able to identify students before they get to a point where a tragic event is about to take place. And I know from personal experience, those resources within the school can really help a student and get a student out of a really dark place. So I think that we have an expectation and a necessity to provide that to our students.
Thank you. Next is Kim.
Yes, I mean, the school does need to play a role in mental health. So I think the district does offer a lot of programs currently to support students and staff with who are currently or need support through mental health. I would say that maybe if something that the district could do better of is the communication and transparency in informing the parents of the various supports that the district has available, like Care Solace and some other mental health supports. The way that children will learn is if they're feeling safe and healthy at school, and mental health is part of that.
Thank you. Next is Corinne.
So I have to first say that I I disagree with what one of the other candidates said about growing out of it at a certain age. I want to believe that is the case, but I will say this, for our schools right now, we provide the students with the language to express challenges to trusted adults within our buildings. We most recently just had a roundtable discussion where our leadership around the district actually shared 3 to 4 recommendations on what we could be doing to help the students with their mental health, which will ultimately help them with their academic strengths. And the number one of those recommendations was actually to expand the services. The teachers are crying out for more caregivers to be brought into the buildings that can help meet the challenges that young people are facing today, and will help them to better have the best possible relationship with these young people, because without being able to reach them, they cannot teach them. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Mary?
So, this is my field of work, my profession for 28 years. And I can tell you that our district does, has not only, as other respondents have said, not only do we have multiple resources that we are providing to students specifically for mental health services, and also assessing any risk issues when there are mental health issues. And we've expanded those services in the past 12 months to ensure the safety of our students when they are struggling. But our entire district staff is trained to identify when a student is struggling with a mental health issue and to know what to do, to know where to take them for the resource. That type of early intervention in a school district is critical. Our students come to school, they spend hours with our staff, and our staff being in tune with them and what's happening with them and getting them the help they need. Our district absolutely has a critical role to play. That creates safety in our schools.
Thank you. We'll continue. I think this is about the last question, this similar vein about for some social topic discussions. What is your view on initiatives that teach or promote principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how will your view drive your conduct on the board if elected? First is Corinne. Yes. What is your view on initiatives that teach or promote principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion? And how will that view drive your conduct on the board if elected?
Thank you. I actually saw a response to, or a question that was posed to me on social media. And the statement said, I already know, in quotes, what your response is to DEI. And that I found interesting because that person had never spoken to me. However, I will educate them now and say that I'm all for the efforts that we are continuing to do in our district. Establishing our anti-racism policy was one of the best things that our district could do to take a stand for the folks that they are serving. One of the greatest things about our community is that we are diverse. And so therefore, there should be no fear in making sure that everyone is knowledgeable of those diverse differences, that everyone has the proper language to ensure that everyone is spoken to with respect, and that everyone is included and provided an equity of equitable resources, so that once they go out of our doors and they are moving on to being successful adults, they'll be armed with all the tools they need to ensure that they will be successful.
Thank you, Corinne. Next is Renee.
So to me, DEI is something that should really come naturally to people. I don't think it's something that should be forced, in the sense that it is inherent human nature to want to promote diversity, equity, inclusion in any group of people. Sometimes by the time we get to adulthood, we forget a lot of that. So I think, to me, the biggest issue with these things is that a lot of people don't actually understand the fundamental principles of DEI most of the time, because the principles are purposefully contorted so that it confuses or instills an emotional response from people. But instilling good values in our students is something that should start at home and continue throughout the school. Students should feel confident and happy about their uniqueness and the things that make them different. And I think as long as we're focusing on the fundamental principles and competencies in education, and including these other topics as supplemental, I think that there's no issue with that.
Thank you. Nick?
I think, or the diversity in Cherry Hill is the strength of our community. Our kids experience so many different cultures, foods, music, languages, traditions. And kids are naturally open to diversity until they're artificially taught that they shouldn't be. So as long as our district continues to encourage kids to see each other as friends, classmates, future colleagues, and not teach them to segregate themselves from each other, and I think we're doing okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam?
So one of the things about the word equity, which I think is really interesting, is people, I've heard a lot of people say even tonight that we don't have equitable distribution of resources in our district, which is just, it's not accurate. We are very equitable. We have honors classes, that's an equity offering that we have. We have extra resources in schools where students have are under-resourced, have challenges in their learning, or their families have under-resources, and that's showing up in the classroom. So equity is critically important for achievement. It's critically important for the emotional safety of our students. No matter what side of town they live on, what school they go to, we must ensure that they all have access to an equitable education, especially with special education. Inclusion means including our special education students to have the best education they can as part of our school community. I absolutely support our staff representing the way our students are in our district and all our initiatives to move that in the right direction.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, I think Cherry Hill has always been a diverse community. It still is. I've always found it to be very inclusive. All the schools seem to be overly welcoming to families of different cultures. So I think by nature, Cherry Hill is diverse and inclusive. What we have to just simply be careful of as educators is that our strength is not so much in the diversity, but in the common goals, common values that we all carry across the diversity. Diversity by itself, my experience, does not bring any strength. It's sort of nice, interesting, but if there's not a common goal, we're all neighbors, we all go to the same school system, this sort of thing is paramount when we talk about diversity.
Thank you. And Kim?
So I think it kind of goes back to the whole idea of culture. I think diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that, needs to be like a fundamental part of the culture within our district. How it will drive my conduct is, I think I've been a part of that over the last year. I think it's really impactful to listen to all different types of views, no matter whether or not I generally agree with people. I think it's good to learn from where people are coming from, where opinions are drawn from, and how, life experiences have created people's, views on life. I also believe that by having a diverse group of thought within a group creates a better outcome. So I think no matter what, the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion needs to happen to create a product that is best for all students in this district.
Thank you. The next question is about something a couple of you mentioned when you were discussing your goals at the start. What qualities do you believe are essential in reviewing candidates for district superintendent? First is Jack.
I think I'd be interested in an individual that comes with experience in various communities. I would want someone that adheres to, or I'll say, American Christian values or Judeo-Christian values. At the same time, I would look for an individual that is open and welcoming to all individuals, families, and different religions and whatnot that he'll be working with in Cherry Hill. So it's going to take interesting, quite a person in my view, But I'd be looking for those qualities in the superintendent.
Thank you. Corinne?
So as a member again of the HR team, not member, but chair of the HR committee, I was also a member of the team that selected our acting superintendent, Dr. Kwame Morton. And while we were going through that, I stressed that my hope for our next superintendent is that they have a number of leadership competencies that will help us to do our work and get it done. You know, I'm definitely looking for a superintendent that is able to come in and build relationships with our staff teams, change the culture in some of our buildings where there are staff teams that are not operating to their best ability only because of the culture and climate of the school. So I'm looking for someone that will come in with a leadership capability to bring people together and to also have data-driven evidence or data-driven processes in order for us to move the needle. One of the things that I loved about Dr. Morton is that he acts on data and systems and functions. And so I'll be looking for that same thing in the next superintendent.
Thank you. Nick?
I think our next superintendent absolutely has to be apolitical, somebody who has no political tendencies towards their position as the superintendent of our school district. Also somebody who is willing to commit to a long tenure, either somebody already grounded in the South Jersey area or willing to relocate and truly ground him or herself here. Somebody unbiased, personable, an open door policy, high energy, and somebody who's not afraid to speak for himself or herself. I don't want to see a superintendent hiding behind the microphone on mute, asking the solicitor or president of the BOE to speak on his or her behalf, because superintendent is afraid of repercussions. Speak your mind, be honest and open. That's all we could ask for. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee?
So to me, I would like to see a very strong selfless superintendent in whoever joins our team. Specifically someone that operates under a servant leadership model, someone that's a good support for their staff and cares about their staff's growth, not necessarily their own. An advocate for a change, someone that has experience in creating and implementing innovative programs, someone that is empathetic, visionary, compassionate, a good communicator. I want somebody that has experience with underserved populations, someone that understands different diverse backgrounds and understands the complexity that culture has in education and success within education. Someone that takes special ed seriously and will actually advocate for programs and their students. And most importantly, somebody that's in it to win it. It's going to be here for a long time, not somebody that's looking to build a resume or just add another stone to their path. I want somebody that's dedicated to us and our community.
Thank you. Kim?
I think one of a major component is that this person will need to really come in to bridge the divide between the community and rebuild trust. I want a superintendent who is willing to have open communication and transparency, more of a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. And this person also needs to focus on academic success in a diverse environment, creating measurements to show, growth, whether it's through test scores, his or her own idea of, a group of measurements that, show some sort of stepping forward. And as Renee said, focusing on the special education community.
And Marian?
So although I have my ideas, which I'll share in a moment, I do want to say I think stakeholder input in the process is critically important. We are a large and engaged community, and we must have the input of our community members in deciding who will be the right person for the job. Overall, we need a person who has the qualities of a strong leader, not just a manager. Someone who has an educational vision. That is something that needs to be rebuilt in our schools, in our district. Someone who will prioritize both the mental and physical health and safety of our students and staff, as well as student achievement. And someone who has experience working in a large suburban district. We're the 12th largest district in the state. Someone who has strong fiscal management skills and can responsibly oversee the $250 million plus budget we have and the bond projects that are going on simultaneously. And someone who can work on climate and culture to bring more consistency and cohesiveness in our schools.
Thank you. Our next question is also something a couple of you have mentioned throughout your answers. How would you address teacher or more broadly staff for the schools recruitment and retention? Renee, you're first.
I think the most important thing is to hold the audience, ask our teachers how they view their climate at work, ask them why they like being teachers here, staff, ask them why they stayed here, why they joined us. I think understanding what our population is and trying to find people whose vision for education matches the needs of our students. I think promoting professional development in our staff and our teachers, giving them opportunities to grow, letting them teach and educate their students. You know, they're the experts, letting them do what they do best. And I just think responding to feedback, continuing to assess the needs of our staff and our teachers and ensuring that we're giving them what they want, and then even more than that.
Thank you. Jack, you're next.
Yeah, I think I would, this is really around job satisfaction for the teachers. This is something that's very important to me. It's important that a teacher is in a position that matches his skill set, that he's happy in, and also that we are seeing student success and that he feels he's getting compensated for. One of the things that I'm going to suggest that we consider as the board is a performance reward for 6 of our very best teachers. This is a financial reward that I think we have wonderful teachers in the district, and I think they should be recognized publicly and financially. And I would ask the board and the superintendent to come up with a nomination process. The other thing is I'm in favor of signing bonuses for college graduates to come to Cherry Hill. These are the sort of things that a teacher will stay longer and commit to.
Thank you. Kim, you're next.
So I think following climate surveys and fixing the issues that are most consistent within the staff, you know, a positive working environment is an environment that people are going to stay in. I would, you know, make sure that benefits are aligned with neighboring districts, whether it's like, I know we increased the medical to support new hires this year, which I think will definitely increase, you know, hiring. But making sure that other benefits are aligned, not just pay, but also, you know, benefits that come along with it, professional development. And I think it's also important to identify internal staff who are looking to advance. You know, many of the times people leave because they feel like they've hit a ceiling. And so if we can identify teachers or administration who are, you know, a good fit to move ahead to support that staff member and train that person to move on so that they don't look elsewhere to find those opportunities.
Thank you, Kim. Marion?
So we have multiple ways that we are working to address this. Climate and culture, we've talked about, is really important, and there is a new initiative happening in the district that is working to align the staff, the administration, and the board together through the Labor Management Collaborative. And Ms. Elmer Stratton will speak more about that since she's involved with that. We know we need to improve the bottom of the entry-level salary scale for our teachers. We call it the bottom of the scale, but it's the entry-level part of our salary scales. We have negotiated all of our contracts within the past couple of years, and we improved the salary scales for our ed assistants and our teachers at the higher levels, but it's now time to focus on that. We need to build a better pipeline for teachers. We have lost 60% of our, 40% of our college focused students on education. We have fewer students going into education. So we need to work at a higher level with the state on that. We do have pathways for our ed assistants to become teachers and for our other community members to get temporary certifications.
Thank you. Corinne.
Just say the question. Sure.
How would you address teacher recruitment and retention? I brought it to teacher or staff recruitment and retention.
Thank you for rereading that. As my running mate Miriam just stated, we are embarking right now on a major initiative with the New Jersey Collaborative State Partnership, and the team that is put together is comprised of board members, principals, our superintendents, as well as our staff, our teachers and paraprofessionals, and even nursing. But we have to continue with some of the efforts that we championed in the last year that has brought us to the first time having September being with a low number of absences, actually lower than what we were in the previous year. So that would be continuing with our career fairs in-house and continuing to attend career fairs locally. Also, that would mean, I already mentioned, looking at our salary guides to make sure that we're desirable, but in those same veins, we need to utilize our CTE curriculum to change the look of education in terms of it being a not desirable profession.
Thank you. Nick.
Okay, I think that we need to offer a one-time VSIP program. That's a voluntary separation incentive program at BOE discretion, of course. I think this program could save a ton of taxpayer dollars on the highest paid senior career teachers, allow them to transition into retirement while also training and mentoring our new hires, younger teachers, for which we could afford to spend more on them by saving those higher salaries on the back end. But we passed a $400 million bond to invest in our schools. We can also invest some money in the future of our teachers. It'll pay for itself in the long run. Our academics will increase as we are able to fill those positions with better teachers with experience, possibly from other districts who cannot pay them as much.
Thank you. And our next question. Everyone has passion, which has driven you all to run for this office. But if we liken this form to a job interview, what are your qualifications or experiences that align with the responsibilities of the position? So setting the passion part aside, which you all share, of course, what are your qualifications or experiences that align with the responsibilities of the position? And first will be Jack.
Well, I think to start, I did spend 13 years as a middle school teacher and high school teacher in Camden and St. Vincent. But since then, I spent several years in a management role with many different types of people with different skills. Towards the later part of my career, I worked in different countries. So I think and was successful with most of the staff that worked for me. So I think I would bring the ability to bring people together, open up conversations with the community, and be a good listener.
Thank you. Nick?
I'm been vice president of a white collar labor association. Just went through 2 weeks of contract negotiations. I have a lot of experience on the labor side of the table there, being on that board. Also on another board for a condo association. I wouldn't say that's as much experience on that side of it, but I do have experience with Robert's rules and the notion of board and how meetings are conducted. I'm an engineer. We do risk management, security for a living. These are all things that we're always concerned with our schools. Education is right in hand with all of those aspects. I think that is relevant as well. We are problem solvers in nature, think outside the box, and try to fix things before they break. So we need to continue doing that here. I think I can bring that experience and help the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam?
So, I mean, I said earlier, you know, I am kind of a lifelong leader in my profession. You know, I started a business that now employs 20 people and has been in business for 20 years. But, you know, I think on the, personal side, I really became engaged and have consistently stayed engaged in supporting our students and our school district over the past 10 years, whether it was being involved in PTA, advocating for fair funding, you know, helping to bring the Commissioner of Education and 15 of his staff to visit our schools because of the state of our schools, which led to getting more funding, and being very involved in stakeholder engagement for the bond process and then successfully passing the bond. I have spent a lot of time at community events, connecting to the schools and the students and the families. Being dedicated, willing to put in the time and willing to really think thoroughly through all what's needed. I bring that all.
Thank you. Corinne?
Thank you. So I'm gonna say this, but I'm hoping that it's correct. I'm probably the person on this panel that has the most extensive experience in the education system and working with young people. I've been committed to youth development for 20 years, having served in roles as director of youth intervention for several nonprofits, youth intervention specialist for several nonprofits. Also in my nonprofit life, I have been a trainer for NJSAC in several districts and nonprofits now consult with or contract me to train their teams on how to work with young people. In addition to that, as an executive director of team leadership with the 7th largest YMCA in the country, I was not only able to build boards, lead boards, manage budgets up to about $5 million, and also manage staff at up to 60 at a time. And finally, I have experience working in this school district, starting as a SAC employee and then going into our schools. I'm an OST leader and consultant around the state and also an accreditor. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee is next.
So I'd like to challenge you actually on that statement. I've been in some level of educational role since I graduated college. I've taught high school, college, in both the chemistry and nursing departments at Rutgers University, and I'm currently a nurse educator for my career. I am the director of our nurse residency program, so I focus primarily on recruiting and retaining new to practice nurses, which is similar to teachers. I'm used to giving and preparing high stake presentations for our CEOs, so board level work comes naturally to me. I've led committees within the hospital on policy change and implementing practice change throughout the hospital. I'm a nurse, so I'm empathetic. I'm passionate about what I do. I've recently found out I'm an Eagle parrot leader, so I'm positive, friendly, and like to take charge in situations. I am not only a nurse, but I'm a group fitness instructor, so I love to promote wellness and health in my community. I'm involved, I'm a critical thinker, I'm a parent. I have lots of experience that I like to bring to the board.
Thank you, Renee. And Kim.
I've worked in education for the last 7 years. I've been an adjunct professor for an MBA program and their undergraduate in supply chain management and operations management. I have developed curriculum and managed budgets for that program. Prior to that, I worked in the corporate world. I received my MBA in supply chain management in 2012, where I managed mostly inventory and resource management, which I have been able to translate into my work on the BNF committee to work hard to provide transparent information regarding the bond project. It's important for us to be transparent with our community after they have provided us such a huge financial stake. Finally, I don't know, this probably whoops. I worked in my family's business, and so I've really learned how to be in precarious situations. Working with your cousins, aunts, uncles, parents can really teach you how to not take things personally.
That might be a good transition to the question, which also has to do with the experience, different type of experience. So school board members may disagree or hold different perspectives from each other. School board members must also interact with taxpayers and parents who may have different perspectives from you. Describe what it looks like to you to work with colleagues with different perspectives, including your experience with doing so successfully. And first will be Corinne. Describe what it looks like to you to work with colleagues with different perspectives, including your experience doing so successfully.
Thank you for saying that again. So for me as a board member, we do not always agree, and that's a lovely thing. That means that we are using the best practices and working together by having diverse opinions, diverse ideas. The thing that allows us to get work done and to get work done quickly is that we believe in our organizational structure and we are continuing to foster sustainable collaboration. This is why we're fully aligned with the New Jersey Collaborative State Partnership. All of us on our team, despite our differences or our thoughts personally, as a team for our district, we have a shared purpose and we are brokering knowledge from each other in conversations respectfully and structured exchange of ideas and engaging multidimensional conversations. And that is what is key in order for us to maintain a functioning team that continues to tackle issues within our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Kim, you're next.
Oh, I guess that was. So I've worked, as I said, I worked with my family for over 10 years, and that was honestly probably one of the hardest situations I've ever had to be in, but it also really taught me a lot about perseverance and, as I said, not taking things personally. I think it's important to hear from all different opinions, sides, views, in order to come to the best product, the end product, which is, whatever applies to the students or the district itself. I like hearing from different points of view. I like to ask questions and I'm not, and some people might think I'm annoying in asking them, but it's more or less, I need to be able to understand how to get me to that point. Like, I'm kind of asking, like, prove it to me, right? I'm asking questions to get there. And so I think that having that ability to look and to question gives me a better understanding, and I can always explain where my stance comes from.
Thank you. Renee?
So I've always said that I want to be that old person that has all of the stories, and I've lived my life to have as many experiences as possible so that I can engage in discussions and conversations with people and have some sort of perspective to offer responses back to them. So I thrive in an environment of listening to others talk and working with them and pulling out their strengths and using those strengths to complement my weaknesses. And I know that we will not agree, and I don't expect us all to agree, but I do expect us as a board to appreciate everybody's voices and understand that we're all people. None of us are special. There is no job description for this, but as long as we have the right intentions in mind and that we're honest and transparent about what we bring to the board, I think that's the most important. I've recently had to tell my CEO that I believe that what we're doing is not working. So the confrontation aspect of that is something natural to me, but I always offer a solution to any problem that I face, and I thrive off of working with people to come to a resolution.
Thank you. Nick?
I grew up in Cherry Hill. I mean, we have every different opinion within our community. I've been pretty much minority within my group of friends throughout my entire life here. We've always disagreed, or in some cases agreed on all different things, had different opinions. We still end up laughing and being civil about it, and it doesn't affect our friendship whatsoever. And from a professional standpoint, the labor board that I'm on, I came on that board not necessarily agreeing with everybody on the board, casting dissenting votes periodically, and we all get along fine. We negotiate and communicate well. I would take that experience, carry that over here as well. And I think there's a lot of people in this community, especially out there on social media, who would be shocked if they saw some of the people that I am actually friendly with in person and have spent time with at the swim club, at back to school nights, who might think I might disagree with, but yet we can still be civil and still be friendly. And I'd continue that on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam?
So it's really, first and foremost, critically important to develop a relationship with your colleagues when you're on the board. which I guess it's like any other environment, work environment, family environment, you need to understand people, you need to listen to them, and you need to connect with them. And when you do that, you find places where you are aligned and where you are divergent. And that's what we do on a regular basis in the board. We are all on this board because we care about the kids and we care about the school district. So respecting one another, hearing opinions, not personalizing different viewpoints is really important. It's important not to personalize when people are upset and come up and speak to you in the community. That's their right. They're advocating for their kids and their belief system. So you have to be open-minded. It's really important in my mind to promote each other at this table, to promote leadership, to bring the voices and spend the time. There's so much time that it takes to prepare, to do things right, to give good oversight, and to have accountability. So doing that together. Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember in any sort of discussion that we all do have the same goals. I think if we all agreed all the time, we would not get the best product. The best product comes in the exchange of ideas, which will not always be totally in agreement. But there are boundaries that the discussion has to be done respectfully. And at some point where, there is the element of compromise that if come to a stalemate, that is basically the same thing as a failure. So you don't want to get there. There is a way to compromise and still work forward. So I think it's key to understand the disagreements are going to happen. They're not personal, but as long as we're moving forward and we're doing that in a respectful manner, I think we'll all get to where we want to be.
Thank you. Question number 10. How would you rate the district's special education services? Is there anything that you would change? And first is Kim.
I think I touched on it in the first question. So I think there needs to be more, as I said, expanding the special education programs. It's been stated that autism support is one of the fastest growing programs in our district. And I think it really needs to be offered, especially at all 3 middle schools. Especially now with redistricting and having home-based middle schools, we need to provide a way for our autism support families to also have a pathway through middle school as well. Middle school is a tough transition. It's even tougher if you're being bused further away and you need to create all new friendships. Special education is one of our most vulnerable populations. And so anything, like we need to do everything to support them and their families to create the most success for those students. So providing more resources, whether it be teachers, money.
Thank you. Next is Miriam.
So this has been a lot of my personal life experience is special education in Cherry Hill Public Schools, as I mentioned. We have a ways to go to improve our programming. Although we have now, I'm happy to say, in the past 2 years, we've added special education to our district goals for the first time. We met with families. One of the main outcomes that we found out was the challenge of transitioning from school level to school level. We need to start to address how do we improve that with better communication from level to level. We've added multiple special ed classes over the past several years and added behavioral specialists and special education teacher coach, which is actually a really critical position. But that's not enough. We need to do more. We need to fully train all our staff and our teachers. And we have to look at how do we address the best practice of having 2 classes in the same school, which is a best practice, but be able to meet the needs of students who live all over the district, especially at our middle school level.
Next is Corinne.
Yes, so I'm not going to give a rating to our special education services because I don't want anyone that's watching to be offended by any ratings, and I certainly don't want any staff going to work tomorrow feeling subpar. I do, however, believe that nothing is perfect, and so there's always room to grow. And with that same growth, there's always an extension of learning. So our staff is continuing to learn and to understand what it takes to fully provide the best optimal education to our students, as well as helping our families. And I believe that we could continue moving the needle if we, one, find some new ways to hear voices of our parents of children with special needs, and allow them to come to the table more. I think that also providing our special needs specialists with more leeway and resources to continue to do the work and to go out and find more best practices, and to let us know, as an expert, let us know what she needs from us as board members. And then I believe quality assurance.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, to a certain degree, I might have to defer to this question because I haven't been directly involved with special ed in recent years. But I do know that the IEP is at the center of everything, and that this is something that I think is very important to have parents' input and a constant review and updating and changing as much as possible. I know there has been redistricting. I'm not sure whether this has put an extra burden on the special education students in terms of busing and things like that, but that would be something that I would always keep an eye on. And I would take not only input from the parents, but the Cherry Hill Special Ed PTA. Take input there, and I probably have to leave it at that. I can't give any concrete recommendations just because I have not been involved.
Thank you.
Nick?
I'll also admit that I have very limited firsthand experience with special education in Cherry Hill. However, I have witnessed enough families at Board of Ed meetings speaking out about their negative experiences, where I'd really like to investigate more, learn about these failures in more detail, and try and figure out how to prevent them from happening in the future. And again, that's not a general statement on the special ed programs here. These are just a few specific situations, a few specific cases, and any failures are still failures. We need to make sure we do that.
Thank you. Renee?
So I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon. This is not an area of expertise for me as well. I have personal experience with this, but not within the district, so I can't give a proper assessment to something that I don't really know anything about. But I will say that something very clearly seems to be missing. I'm not sure how there can be a general consensus within the community that they're not receiving the needs that they're sometimes documented to need. So I know that a lot of people have sat in these seats and gave promises about initiatives that they plan to enact and all of these things that they plan to do with special ed, but unfortunately we seem to be in the same position that we've been year after year. So I won't promise that I'm going to bring a whole lot of new ideas to this, but one thing that I will promise is that I'm going to hold the district responsible to mitigate the issues, figure out exactly what's going wrong, why we aren't giving our students what they need, and hopefully move the mark in providing those resources for the students.
Thank you. Our next question is, how and should standardized test scores be used when evaluating curriculum, or just in your work as in your roles on the Board of Education if elected? How would you treat standardized test scores? And first will be Miriam.
So standardized test scores are one measure of our student achievement, and it's one that we do need to pay attention to. It's part of actually the school performance report, and there's a lot of information in that. So we absolutely use it to identify resources that are needed and intervention. And we are able to target our interventions for our students using those test scores. And we actually have added to our goals specific best practices for benchmarks. So kindergarten and third grade reading levels, making sure that all of our kindergarten and third graders are at reading levels. Those scores will identify some of that. algebra math foundation for our ninth graders. That's one of the test scores, something that test scores show. So it is part of a larger approach to understanding achievement, and part of our assessments integrate with that.
Thank you. Renee?
So this is an interesting topic. Recently, we have all been lectured by a seated board member on how state assessments are not an accurate picture or representation of student success. And although I agree that it's not the only part of student success, it's still important. So fun fact, Temple, Jefferson, and Widener nursing schools are all on academic probation right now for their graduating nurses not passing the boards in the rate that is deemed acceptable. So this just shows you the repercussions of our students not meeting the benchmarks that are expected of them. So to me, this is a big warning flag and a big red flag that we need to be doing something different, and we maybe need to be changing our focus and to bring it back more to the fundamental aspects of education. So because to me, it means a lot, and I think that it's very telling where the current academic standing is of our students.
Thank you. Nick?
I think standardized test scores are probably the only fully objective metric that helps us analyze and measure success from one school to another, and also to rank our schools against others in state or nationally. I do disagree with anyone who states that standardized tests don't tell part of the story. I believe they absolutely do tell part of the story. They're a way to compare apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. But that being said, I do think that we still need to focus on allowing our children to diversify themselves beyond just academics, because all extracurricular activities, music, sports, theater, clubs, don't fall within standardized testing measures. But we absolutely need to keep those standardized test scores in our foresight. That's what other potential prospective residents look at when they're going to move to our town, and it's what colleges look at for accepting their students.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm not gonna provide much, in the unique from this discussion. I will say this, though, I have a diagnosed learning disability, and so standardized tests were like the worst for me. And so I completely understand that it's an incomplete assessment of a student, because I always felt like my standardized test score was not a reflection of my knowledge and academic success. However, I also understand that unfortunately it is an assessment used by governing boards to, it's kind of just like a baseline, and it's an easy way to test, a large group of students for certain outcomes. So, even though while I obviously see the incompleteness in the test on the individual level, I think as a group, it shows a better outcome. And, as Mrs. Stern said, the board goals does have other levels within our district that we will use to monitor children's success as they move through the district.
You, Jack?
Yeah, the standardized tests, they are probably a necessary evil. Can be used in many different ways, but as a board, it is a tool for us to help us determine where the weaknesses are within the school system academically, and where we should be applying resources. It is not the end all, but it is certainly an indicator. So the other thing I would keep in mind, I sort of agree, there are many students that are not good test takers. So we just have to be careful when interpreting the test scores. But on the outside looking in, I opened up my remarks with standardized tests from the state of New Jersey, and the school district does get measured by that. So it's something that we need to use to our benefit.
Thank you. And Corinne?
Not that I don't want to go too deep in how I don't believe that it's just measuring apples to apples or oranges to oranges. And I most certainly don't believe that it identifies the weak spots, but I do believe that standard test scores are just one form of assessment that very errant educators use that are just sole predictors, not sole predictors for success or proficiency. Teachers have to assess throughout the year in a variety of ways. And they also need to differentiate their teaching to ensure that all students are met in a variety of ways. The experts in our admin team have already taught us that there's a variety of measures that we can utilize as a board to research data as we continue to work with our young people. As a board, we've called for a full outline of what will Cherry Hill define proficiency as, and I'm trusting those experts. However, it is the government that makes our benchmarks and regulates what our kids should know at each grade level. But it's our priority to ensure that we provide equal access to learning to everyone at their grade level.
Next question is, what do you see as the benefits and or the drawbacks of using technology in both teacher instruction and student learning? First will be Nick.
You're asking a computer engineer, benefits of technology. I am not going to speak poorly on technology. It's how I make my living, not in the education system, of course. But to be honest, use of technology has allowed our students to be able to take work home, show their parents what they're working on, what they're learning in school. So their textbooks are pretty much on their computers as well. Their assignments are on the computers. Parents can access the assignments to some extent, but I do take issue with Google Classroom not having a parent login. I'm throwing that thing out there for everybody to hopefully improve that. Short of logging into your child's account. Technology is the way of the future. It's not going away. I do like the fact that kids can still get outside and play at recess. They still read paper books in the classroom. Most of them do still write on paper, and some of them are even still learning cursive. I think it's good to just continue to balance technology use in the classroom.
All right, next will be Miriam.
So one of the great benefits of technology is it helps with differentiated instruction, which is really important when you are teaching all different students at all different levels. Some of the technology that we utilize can help them learn at their own pace and also identify areas where they may have challenges. Kids are excited and engaged with technology. We really need to also help parents understand how their kids are using technology and some of the safety measures that can be put in place and some of the ways that technology can also interfere with their education. So I think we have some work to do with parent education and resources. Technology provides better transparency and visibility for parents and staff and students into how they're doing in the school district. We are leveraging technology to help with things like registration, that kind of stuff. Lastly, our teachers have been very vocal about the need to help curb technology use that is not academically related, and that's a challenge we are facing and will move forward with.
Thank you, Miriam. Kim?
I mean, obviously there's a benefit to technology in the classroom. I just think it's a matter of how much and how often. My children, well, my stepson's a senior in high school and he's on his phone constantly, but my two are in elementary school, and I do like the idea of them having more time not on technology or computers. I do like the resources that technology provides, especially at home. As a parent, sometimes it's helpful for students to work on math or reading at home with the technology. But I do think there needs to be more of a structured curriculum in regards to the use of technology. I think that when students learn to write first, or they're primarily starting to write on a computer versus handwriting, I think we also need to consider like a curriculum for teaching typing in the elementary and middle school. I also think we need to work on internet safety so that students understand, what it's like to be online and how all your information is out there.
Jack?
I think technology is a double-edged sword. I mean, it does, on one hand, it puts at the fingertips of every student. You know, the greatest works of, greatest minds in the history of mankind, so there's definitely that aspect of it. The other aspect is just a very dark hole of wasted time. And, so many times I see my granddaughter just, eating up, minute after minute, just looking at sort of nonsensical type stuff. So it sort of goes both ways. It really does need to be controls. I'm a supporter at this point of putting some restrictions on the internet itself. But probably with technology, the most important issue right now for all school systems is what to do about AI. There has to be an AI standard developed. Get one in place and change it as you go forward, but you can't go without one.
Renee?
So I think first and foremost, we need stronger policies surrounding the use of technology, both district issued and non-district issued tools of technology. But just as a simple pros and cons list, to me, technology can expand the reach of all students and their different learning styles. It improves communication, it's fun and engaging, and it's honestly the only way I survive my own job. So I think technology is important. And like Nick said, it's not going anywhere. So we need to figure out how to embrace it better, perhaps. As far as cons, we like to call it the mind melt in my household. And when young children stare into a screen for a long period of time, it definitely has effects on their mental state. There is plenty of research out there that also discusses mental health as a result of screen usage. I think that it's aiding in poor handwriting and grammar ability with our students. And as Jack mentioned, nowadays kids can go online and have full papers written for them. So I think it's something that we need to prepare ourselves for the future so that our children are still learning.
And Corinne?
So technology, like others have said, has benefits and drawbacks, like many of the greatest inventions. For us in education, students need to see this technology so that they can use it properly. So when they are outside of our doors, they'll be educated about cyber safety and also have access to some extra learning tools that can help them to navigate the academic system, as well as we have been providing access to some that many only have that access because of our school districts. And that is us extending our education not only to our youngest leaders, but even to our caregivers and families. We also have much to learn and need to find tech that will help our educators, our central admin, and other efforts with the newest software so that we are above the curve in terms of making work efficient and making work done successfully. Parents always have the right to regulate access if they want.
Thank you. All right, we're closing in on closing remarks. I do want to squeeze in one more thing that I think we can get in, if you guys maybe only took like 30 seconds to do it. At the end of the day, you're all people, and people are who serves on the Board of Education. So picture you have a free afternoon, no responsibilities, money's no object, I suppose, but what is your one activity that you are going to do? What's the thing that you like to do to relax or enjoy your free time? We're going to go reverse order from that first question. So Jack, you will be first.
Sorry, this is 30 seconds.
Yeah, for fun. So yeah, let's aim for 30 seconds so that way we can still end up at 9 o'clock. Thanks.
What do I do for fun?
Yeah, your favorite thing that you do for fun. Yes.
What I've been doing lately is writing in the Willowdale section of Cherry Hill. There's a local park called Cherry Park where we used to walk our dog. And I did read a book about what I call the secrets of Cherry Park, which I sort of imagined what Cherry Park looked like in the past, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, just that plot of land. So to answer your question, I write sort of fantasy contract.
Thank you. Nick?
All right, 30 seconds. Let's see if I can squeeze this all in. I would be sitting on my front porch my kids would be playing in the street with all of their friends, either playing basketball, riding skateboards, doing gymnastics on the front lawn, hoping they don't get hurt doing it. I'll also be sitting there drinking either my French press, freshly ground whole bean coffee, probably medium roast, or I'll have my cold brew that was overnight in the fridge, maybe a little pumpkin spice in there. And probably eating something really spicy. I don't know whether that would be long hots or hot beef jerky.
Corinne,
So anytime that I can get a good afternoon with great weather and get a round of golfing with my dad is the best afternoon ever. And added to that, some online shopping from the golf cart and a little bit of mindless minutes watching TikTok while I go hole to hole is the best day. And top it off with French fries to close it out, and even a hot shower non-interrupted by my 4 sons would be amazing afternoon.
Miriam,
So, my best times, which I don't get to do this a lot, but I absolutely love to just be in nature, and I love a hike. And it's even better if it's with my wife and my 3 kids, but they're teenagers and young adults, and they're not really interested in hiking with us as often unless we're on vacation and we do it together, which we did previous summer in California, which was fantastic. A hike and an overnight camp was pretty phenomenal, completely tuned out technology. It was absolute best.
thanks. Kim,
I guess it depends on the direction I want to take. I could go trashy. I love Dateline, The Real Housewives, many Bravo shows, so I could do that. I also like to volunteer, and that's something I like to do with my daughters. We volunteer a lot for an organization that provides socks for the homeless. And I like to go running. Currently training for the Chicago Marathon next week. And so I've been doing a lot of long runs with one of my dad's running friends, and we've spent hours and hours and hours talking about everything and anything.
I got everyone right in that one. Oh, Renee, I'm sorry, I crossed you off prematurely.
It's all good, it's all good. So I'm gonna answer this from a pre-kid perspective. But if I somehow manage to get any free time to myself, it would be probably puzzling. I love to do puzzles. I also love to quilt. I'm self-taught, so it's a little sketchy, but recently joined a quilting group that I really enjoy being a part of. And then my most favorite activity would be taking or teaching any MOSA group fitness class. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly encourage anyone listening to Google it and find yourself a class right down the street that you can take.
Thank you. We'll probably end up going over by just a minute. I hope our audience will stay with us here, but I appreciated you all being able to share a little bit about yourselves personally. We're going to go into closing statements now. It'll be in reverse order of your opening statements. You'll have 2 minutes. Remember that you have a 30-second warning. The yellow card will come up at 30 seconds. Please watch our timekeeper, and at red, you must conclude your sentence. First will be Renee.
All right, so I'll gain you some time back. It's not 2 minutes. But thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I really wish that these forums were more engaging with the community because I really enjoy the conversation aspect of these types of events. So I encourage anybody listening or anybody here today to continue to engage with me over the next month or so to find out more about me. But that being said, to me, this is being on the Board of Education is not a popularity contest. I know we're elected by the public, but that's not what it means to me. A seat on the Board of Ed is not an opportunity to promote myself or my own growth. It's our children's futures are not an opportunity to gain national or local spotlight. We have a responsibility as a Board of Education to do what is right, include all voices, and ensure that we are striving for excellence in all of the decisions that we make. So I am here tonight to show you that I'm not going to be making empty promises to anyone. I won't lie to you about my motives or my intentions. I'm not here to bully any of my peers or the community. I will not just sit here and give unnecessary gratitude when the job is not done or isn't done well. I'm here to stand up for what is right. I will listen, I will ask for clarification when needed, and I will put my heart into serving the teachers, students, and my community. But most importantly, I'm here to help move this district in the right direction.
Thank you, Renee. Kim, you're next.
We are at the beginning of an amazing journey, and the Board of Education has the responsibility to decide the direction of our district when choosing our next superintendent. Managing many projects within the district, the bond and preschool, in addition to increasing academic excellence and supporting our special education community, are just a few of the pressing topics our Board of Education and new superintendent will need to tackle. The person you vote for on November 7th has the vote to keep the district moving in the same direction or shift it to meet the needs of our students and community. We need a leader who will reduce the community divide, who can effectively address the lack of transparency, communication, and trust from the previous administration. We need a leader who will effectively address the learning loss that our children suffered from the pandemic. How can I help? I can continue to provide a different voice to the board. I will continue to ask questions to understand topics fully and drill down. I do not vote on an item until I understand its impacts. I am not concerned when I go against the group. I vote my conscience and in a way I feel that is best for the students of the district. When you vote this November, please vote for the person who best exemplifies what you want in a leader of the district.
Next is Jack.
Yeah, before we finish up here, I wanted to just throw out a couple other items here that we did touch on as far as my positions. I would support a document of understanding or a bill of rights between the parents and the Board of Education, so that both sides understands the roles, limitations, and most importantly, to increase communications. I know there were a couple board meetings where over the overcrowding at Bret Hart, there were some parents that were almost to the point of tears in putting their case to the board. I think this is a communication issue that probably if we had this document in place, there would be a mechanism for increasing this, help resolve these issues. Another thing I'm in favor of is a standard uniform for dress in Cherry Hill. In the Camden City Schools and in Pensacola, all the kids have the same uniform, K to 12. The kids look great, and I'm in favor of that. I think it would be a nice change for Cherry Hill. I have a website, Cherry Hill Jack. I have some information about some of the benefits of having a standard uniform, one of which being it's cheaper. But there are other benefits as well. I mean, there's some security benefits too, where if somebody's on campus not in uniform, you can pick them out immediately. Just to close, you know, I am very, I do want to focus on the scores in the various buildings. And as you might pick up, I'm very upset about the sex ed, the way it stands right now. I would just say to anybody listening, if you are upset about that as well, then please give me your vote.
Corinne.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and Zone PTA for allowing us to have this platform and time this evening. Tonight, we've heard a variety of thoughts, diversity of sorts, of group of thoughts on various topics. And not only were we able to be heard, but also listened to respectfully. Much like the vision of this event, our district has a vision to ensure everyone is able to communicate and share and collaborate. It is important that as board members, we have the best leadership in place and that our leadership is supported, held accountable, and that they trust our decisions. All will lead to a much needed progress for not only our students, but also our staff and our educators. We have great work to do, and being on the board is just one way that I have chosen to be a servant leader to my community. I don't know the answer to everything, and neither does any board member on my team. However, we have a common goal of making impact in the right direction. I recognize that all voices need to be at the table, including those of our young people. Many of those young people who have already learned that many of the topics we spoke about tonight do have a place in our schools. I thank the many advocates that have come before me, like former board member, Mr. Lewis, whose building namesake we currently sit in, and the late Bill McCargo, who was also a former board member. Both were champions for our young people, and I am striving to be champions just like they were and be advocates for our young people as well. I thank my husband and my sons for sharing me with the board, and I hope to be on this board for another 3 more years.
Thank you, Miriam.
I want to first thank the League of Women Voters and Zone PTA for hosting year after year this great opportunity to allow us to talk about where we stand and why we want to be here. I also want to thank my family because night after night, day after day, weekends and weekdays, they stand behind me. My wife picks up the slack when I am not there to drive kids around, make dinners, look at whatever needs to be done, because this is a lot of work, and she supports the vision that I have, which is to be a part of the community leadership that gives back, that cares about our kids, that gets involved, that makes a difference. It's why I got involved. It's why I'm committed to this journey. I feel like we've just begun some of the really amazing changes that we need to make. We've just starting to really make gaining some steam and making so much progress. Passing the bond, now our buildings are handled, they're on the right track at least. We're focusing on our next leader for our district. How do we continue to improve achievement? We're having a lot more tangible ways that we are addressing that. Preschool expansion is just so exciting. We've expanded to full day. If we are lucky enough to continue that with the funding from the state to fully fund universal preschool, that would be a game changer for our families and our students. And improving special ed. We have an aligned board that is working together for those things. And I want to be part of a board that makes progress, continues to take leadership, and instead of remaining divisive, works together to boost each other up and support our entire district. This is a fantastic town and school district with an amazing history. We are excited. I'm excited to see and be part of where this goes.
Thank you. And Nick.
The unanimous goal of the 2024 BOE should be to thrust Cherry Hill's educational institutions back towards the academic excellence that our long-term residents were accustomed to experiencing. Discrepancies between the high schools, east and west, are appalling, and both schools' test scores and statewide rankings are significantly lower than they were historically throughout most of our lifetimes. However, past boards of education have been almost a unanimous pass-through for our previous superintendent's flawed policies and proposals that have decimated our district's academic progress. We need to find and hire a superintendent who is genuine in her or his focus on academics above politics. As your candidate, I vow to oppose all abusively oppressive and restrictive district policies, to ensure responsible spending of our taxpayer dollars, to encourage all of our residents to get involved with major Board of Ed decisions that affect our curriculum, budget, and health education, and to empower all families to remain active partners in their children's education, regardless of their belief systems. Our families are the strength of our district. We need to embrace the freedom of all parents to instill their values in their children. And we must not silence our parents and we must give them back their voices and the freedom to fight for their children. A vote for Gaudio is a vote for the empowerment of all families to be treated with respect and honor by your elected public servants on the Cherry Hill Board of Education through transparency, clarity, and a concentration on academic excellence throughout this school district. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, Camden County and the Cherry Hill Zone PTA, I would like to thank all of the candidates who participated in this forum, and also thank the virtual audience who attended to better inform yourselves ahead of this election. Remember to vote on Election Day, which is Tuesday, November 7th. You can also vote using a mail-in ballot or by participating in early voting in person. You can find out more about your voting options at vote411.org. Thank you again and have a wonderful evening.